how it's coming along. Um, well, actually, what I meant to say is I just want to try this microphone one more time. So let's see how it does if I let it stay on my shirt and speak into it like this. Can you hear me well? Is this doing some background noise? If I just let it stay like this, or is it working really well? I think it's picking up some noise, right? Well, I'm gonna see. So let me just get dressed up. Um, I'm gonna be doing a lot of cleaning this morning. So I have the dishes, the floors, I have the bathroom, and after that, I might. Well, actually, before doing all that, maybe I should eat something because it's the morning and I need some energy. You want to go outside? Yeah? Come on, little Doug. Let's go outside. So, like I said, I have to be cleaning. Well, there's a lot of stuff that needs to go to the garbage disposal and also to recyclage. I don't know how you say recyclage, but maybe recuperation or something like that, where you just take your old plastic, your old cardboard, and you send it to the. It's not to the dumpster. You send it to the city, and they just dispose of it accordingly, so they're able to use it again and again and again. So yeah, that's what I'll be doing this morning. In the evening, I want to be going with my friend Gab and maybe Jimmy, Joe, and play some League of Legends. We'll see how the day goes. I'm not sure. Maybe Gab just plays in the noon and afternoon, so maybe I'll adjust. But for now, I want to be doing some cleaning. And as for the videos, this is some kind of practice. I want to be recording myself a lot more in the future next weeks, and this is the first time I really use this microphone, this recorder. We'll see how it turns out. I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure if it will work well with it just laying around my neck and moving, just like scratching my shirt and such. Maybe it's doing a lot of noise. I'm not sure, so I'll see about it. Now let me just do a little split test, and I'll do another recording. So now I'm just gonna try with the fan on. So this is the fan. I want to see if it picks up a lot of this noise. This is with the fan, and also with the water running. So I'll be starting the water just in 3, 2, 1. Can you hear me while I talk, even if the water is running? I just wonder if it picks up my voice still. Perfect. So it picks up my voice while the water is running, while the fan is on. Now I'm going to be cleaning the balayeurs, the dust collector. So we have this little robot in our house that just goes everywhere and picks up the dust everywhere, the little debris. So I don't have to use the broom every single time. So yeah, so I'm just gonna try to be cleaning it first, and then after that, um, I'm gonna start it and see if it catches a lot of noise.
The dirt collection bin has been removed.
So let me open this section. What would be great is if I was able to talk and have a real conversation about topics while I was cleaning and doing those kind of things, because this is wasted time in my mind. This is time where, of course, it's helpful because the tasks are done, which is great. But I'm still able to talk through it. I could still have a conversation with you guys. So this is why I'm trying with this recorder right now. I'm gonna be practicing a ton in the future, and eventually, what I'd like to do is I'd like to be more fluent in live recording.
The dirt collection bin has been replaced.
More fluent in live recordings, and just do live shows for my channel. So taking some time and just recording myself for hours and hours and uploading that to the channel, so you guys can learn more about me, about how I see the world and how I experience it. Also, enjoy having some fun together, learn stuff, all these kinds of things. So, this is the goal of the exercise. Now, I'm almost done cleaning this infernal nightmare, but after it's gonna be working for me while I can do something else. Get this off. This is great. So it's like you can open it from backwards, and it just comes in a lot of pieces, and while you get out the pieces, you're able to get dust and such. It's really helpful. This is good. There was not a lot on this side. Still not bad. But yeah, I think I have to do it at least once by 2-3 times. But most of the time I don't have to take it out. So it's pretty good, pretty awesome actually. That works. Now, oh, I forgot to put this back in. So as you see, there's a lot of mistakes in my recording, a lot of silences where I don't.
The dirt collection bin has been replaced.
There's a lot of silences where I don't really talk to you guys. So this is why I'm doing this kind of recording right now, because I wanted to get better and better. So we're able to have like a conversation or something like that while I do the streaming. So this is mainly it. Now I'm gonna be able to try the actual device. So here we go. I just power it on. So now this is my voice while the balayeuse is running, while the vacuum is running. So tell me if you can tell me if you hear me well. I think it wasn't so bad with the water running, but now with this thing, does a lot of noise. So this is just a test, like I said. So let's try and see if it does any harm or if it works with my voice. Let's try it out. So everything is working quite well, even with the vacuum running. My voice is still clear. Of course, I'm going to be able to put it in CapCut and just remove the excess noise. And so I'm going to be able to upload it to YouTube afterwards. It's not going to be the best or the most exciting stream because, well, I'm talking about vacuums and cleaning, but so now I'm gonna be starting to clean, but at the same time I want to talk to you guys about interesting topics. So let me just get something I can talk about. There was this study I remember I talked about in the last video, which is called A Guide to a Happy Life or something like that. But I had some inspiration. I wrote about it earlier this week. So yeah, it was mostly about definitions and also the relation between a particular subject and my life or life in general. So let's go with maybe addiction and dopamine. Well, what I said in this section is that, well, addiction is pretty hard to talk about since in our current world, pretty much everyone is addicted to something. It's really rare that we see someone who's not affected by some kind of addiction. And we see that even the scientists of today see that anything can be an addiction. So from eating unhealthy food, even healthy food. I mean, you can eat a ton of kiwi or a lot of oranges, and it's going to be hurtful for you. But if you eat the right amount of oranges, it's going to be beneficial. So everything you do, everything you think, can be addicting. And that's why it's pretty hard to talk about because it affects every one of us. Some people will say that having habits is not an addiction. So, for example, playing, I don't know, 20 hours per week playing video games, or I don't know, going to the gym 3 hours a day every single day, because it seems beneficial at first, but when you see the actual study, working out 3 hours per day is not recommended. Of course, if you're walking, or if you have like a lot of variance in your exercises, it can be beneficial. Well, a lot more beneficial than just laying around and doing nothing on your couch. But at the same time, 3 hours per day is quite intense. It can be harmful in many ways too, especially if it gets you to, especially if it gets you to forget how your social connections, physical activity, to eat well, also to be a nice person overall. I think there's a lot of people that forget that it's important to be nice to your neighbor, to be nice to other people in your life, even if they don't have the same principles or standards than you. Doesn't mean that they're worth less. So yeah, I think it's really important. So the opposite of addiction for me is not healthy habits. It's actually balance. So it's to have some kind of balance in your life. Um, so having many things that you do every single day. Of course, you can strive. Of course, you can strive for becoming better at everything in your life. This can become an obsession, though. But if you have a very varied lifestyle and you have all your basic needs well fulfilled, I don't see why you shouldn't try to become the best in everything. Not the actual best, but the best version of yourself in balance. So that's pretty much it for addiction. I think there was something else. Like I said, addiction is hard to talk about too, because it's seen really negatively, because it affects the addict in ways he does not seem to have the power to control himself. So pretty much everyone is addicted to something. So it's better to not start shaming each other's for our addictions. Then I go with the big definitions in addiction. An addiction is basically an irresistible urge that persists for a long time towards a physiological or psychological need for a habit forming substance, behavior, or activity having harmful physical, psychological, or social effects, and typically causes well defined symptoms upon withdrawal or abstinence. Of course, this is a big definition, so I break it down I broke it down in many different parts. So it is the negative evolution of a habit. This is what I think. I think at first they are not addictions; they're just habits. Of course, there are exceptions, like when you take heroin or something like this. I think you don't even have to get the habit to get addicted. You can just take it once. So of course there are extreme cases, and I'm not talking about those. But let's come back to the definition. So firstly, it's compulsive. It's an irresistible urge against our wishes. So for example, needing caffeine to start the day. So for example, needing caffeine to start the day off um, is a habit, but it can also be an addiction. But how do we transform compulsion into non-compulsion? This answer for me is quite simple. It's to be mindful of our actions and of our thoughts. It's simply to transform our inner discourse from, oh God, I can't function without my morning coffee, I need to get it, to I don't need or I don't want coffee. Or I'm a coffee non drinker. So it's basically an identity shift, but also managing your thoughts, etc. So that's why I think being mindful, especially in our current modern societies, is one of the top priorities we should be trying to address. Secondly, addiction is chronic, so it tends to persist for a long time or reoccur consistently. Don't you think that sounds just like a habit? Yeah, I think that's why I see addictions like the negative evolution of habits. It's because habits are actually lesser forms of chronic behavior. And to change a habit, there are many methods mentioned in Atomic Habits from James Clear, which I recommend, and I suggest you get a copy for yourself if you're interested in the subject. But the reason is simple. He goes and explains how to create new habits and how to break the ones you want gone. So it's very handy resources. There are many strategies. He goes in depth into each of them. He gives them examples, and well, it's a really good piece of knowledge. The third part of the definition is speaking of harmful physical or well, actually physiological and psychological and social effects. And at first, it looks debatable because if we're talking about intoxicating drugs, it's mainly negative, and I think we can all agree on that. But when we talk about an athletic addiction or being a workaholic, well, there seems to be a positive part. So being in a good shape or running a successful business, and but there are also negatives. So forgetting to cherish our social relationships, family, marriage, and there's actually sacrifices on actual health and excessive levels of stress and such, both in being a workaholic and being an athlete. So awareness of the self is the solution for this kind of problematic, forging an understanding of the outcomes of the thoughts and actions we do on a recurring basis is of crucial importance. Fourthly, it's it typically causes well-defined symptoms like anxiety, stress, sadness, and depression, even meaninglessness. And of course, I'll go even further into this section as it is, because a lot of the time, it's where the loop starts again. So let me explain. Someone starts feeling meaninglessness as he does not have a solid social life. He finds a solution by going out more and meeting people, which is good. So the habit of going out gets in place, and his social life starts getting better and better. What he did not see coming was that another habit started to find its place into his life. His drinking habit transformed into an addiction and makes him stop going out and meet his friends. He is quite satisfied drinking at home after work alone by himself. When he does not drink, he feels irritability, shyness, and gets back even lower than point zero, where he found the solution of going out more and meeting people. Basically, the loop installs itself. When feeling socially awkward or sad or stressed or depressed, he takes out a beer glass, he takes out a beer or a glass of wine, making the negative feeling vanish until the effect of alcohol dissipates. The logical treatment for this kind of behavior is to live through the initial emotions and feelings, trying or not trying to understand them is not what is important at first. The most important thing is to live them truly, to cry of sadness, to scream of anger, to hear the stress loop in your head, and to feel bored when lacking purpose. But also, I think the social element is pretty important too. So that's why most people will suggest that with an addiction you go to some kind of focus group for alcoholic anonymous or something like that. So it's really important to exteriorize, and I think it's easier to do so with someone who has experience and with other people showing their vulnerability than alone at home just on your couch. Of course, it's possible, and there are many resources that can help you with that. The most interesting ones for myself were journaling, mindfulness, and I also consulted a psychologist, and there was well, I got a good inner circle of people who I can speak to, so I was in a really good position to get back on my feet. But for the simple solutions that I can do alone by myself was journaling, mindfulness, meditation, and also answering some questions on paper so you can find really interesting questions on the internet, but I tend to suggest otherwise, because you can find the question that you want, and if the questions are negative, well, your thoughts are going to get even more negative. So I think the best thing is to focus on the positive most of the time. So that wraps it up for addiction. The next subject is dopamine, which is really closely related to addiction, but it's used. The dopamine is used so much in our current world, and it's like it's the explanation of most of our actions. So here's the definition if you don't know what it is. Dopamine is a chemical in the brain that plays a role in pleasure, motivation, and reward. It's often referred to as the feel-good neurotransmitter. Dopamine influences human behavior by making us seek pleasure and motivation. It drives us to pursue rewarding activities and make us feel good when we achieve goals. So, drinking alcohol, coffee, smoking weed, playing video games, and using pornography are all addictive behaviors that release high amounts of dopamine in our system when compared to the simple joys of life, like taking a walk, admiring nature, doing household tasks, preparing your favorite meal, etc. Of course, those lists are not exhaustive. There's a lot more highly dopaminergic activities than the one I mentioned, and a lot more joys of life where the the dopamine levels are more stable. But this is what makes here is what makes them addictive. So Anna Lemke, so Anna Lemke goes in depth on the subject in her book called Dopamine Nation. She also goes on to talk about the pleasure pain balance, which goes to show the relationship between the two during and after an addictive behavior. Most of the rise in pleasure comes in anticipation of the behavior. So, the first thing to understand is that most of the rise in pleasure comes in anticipation of the behavior. When we are engaged in it, we live through a lower but still high level of pleasure, and when the activity ends, the level crashes directly. But it doesn't only crash to the base level, it crashes even lower into the pain section, where we live through physical and mental pain. So other activities like taking a walk gives us long-lasting small amounts of pleasure, but little to no dip, especially not in the pain section. So to conclude on dopamine, we live through actually huge highs in pleasure and steep dips in pain. So that wraps it up for addiction and dopamine. I think, like I said at the start, we are all affected by this affliction. I think it's really hard to get out of an addiction, especially if we don't see what harm it causes us. Sometimes, and I think that when we speak about balance, it's just like choosing which kinds of activities that we want to be doing and what kind of relationship we want also. So, for example, if I start gaming again and I want to get competitive, well, the relationship with gaming becomes quite hard because becoming better takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of efforts and energies. And I'm already doing a very busy life where I work, I do the household tasks, and also I'm trying to start this YouTube channel. So it would not really work for my current lifestyle. So what else can I do if I want to play video games? Is to have like a relationship where I don't really care if I win or if I lose. But for me, it kind of gets the fun away of it. So it's not really interesting for me. So I remarked that just not playing is better because I I feel better when play I'm not playing to lose. I feel better when I'm not actually playing. Uh, because it doesn't give me much gratification or satisfaction to just play and not care about the outcome. I'm not that kind of person. So, so that's why I don't game much anymore. Let's do myself a coffee. I guess this episode can also be uploaded as a podcast or something like that. I think there are podcasts on YouTube. I'm not sure. But yeah, okay. So after that, there was. I know I wrote about a lot of subject this week. There was motivation, discipline, and productivity. So mainly, what I was trying to say in this document is that for me, motivation is overrated. Most of us just try to get motivation, to get motivated, and they hope that motivation will work for them to achieve the goals that they wish. But I think it's actually the other way around. I think motivation comes when you show yourself that you're able to do the project you want to do, and when you consistently take actions towards it. So it's kind of in reverse, and a lot of people have the same resulting thoughts about it. It's not just me, but what I say is motivation is what precedes action. It's what gets me excited to take action. It's the thing that makes it easier for me to go towards a certain goal than sitting around having nothing meaningful to do. Sometimes, though, fear can be strong enough to suffocate motivation down, therefore making it almost useless. That's why it's important to be mindful of our thoughts and emotions as much as we can. So, motivations, of course, is some kind of motor that pushes you to take action. But the trick is you can't really get motivated to do something if you're not assured that you can do it, that you're able to do the thing. So if there is any kind of fear of failure, fear of losing, fear of not being enough, the imposter syndrome, all those kind of fears, well, motivation will be pretty useless for you because because the because you're just gonna be excited but devastated at the same time. So motivation is not the thing that you need. You probably already have it. It's just that you have to get yourself to do it, even though you're having fear. So you have to get out of this comfort zone and just step. You can do really small steps towards achieving those goals. You don't have to like go all in and be the better version of yourself, the perfect version of yourself. So this is quite impossible actually. So just do small steps and notice, even though they're small, they're still steps towards this goal. The tool which will be the most beneficial for you if this is your issue is discipline. For me, discipline is a tool of the mind I use to push towards the hardest and most boring tasks of life, or even the most scary tasks of life. For me, it's similar to have a strong will, which is the deciding part of the mind. Resilience and grit are almost synonyms, but not quite. I would not take them into account before truly mastering my own discipline, since they are harder to work on. But since we are going into definition, here they are. Resilience is basically the comeback mechanic we use towards achieving our goals. We can improve it by reducing the speed it takes for us to living setbacks and getting back into action. Perfect resilience, which is impossible, would be seen in an individual who seems almost unaffected by negative life events. A great example of that is when I spend 20 plus hours creating one of those videos and I see terrible results or performance on it. I tend to see it as a setback instead of a learning, which makes me less inclined to work on my next one. So I guess you see what I'm trying to say here is resilience is like what makes you bounce back from uneventful events, from uneventful situations. So, for example, I don't know, you can break a very expensive tool in the process of creating something new. You can do the dishes and break your favorite class or something like that, get discouraged, you can go to work on a big project, and see that it flops, or that the deadline is reduced or something like that. So everything like those news, it's always some event that is affecting how you see your actions or your output into the world. So when some uneventful situations occurs, you want to bounce back as quick as possible. Someone with very strong resilience will bounce back almost instantly. You will see, you will get this feeling of nervousness, of defeatedness, but he will not feel it for long. He will say, "No, okay, I'm just going and continue on this project." And of course, thinking about it and just trying to do better the next time can be very beneficial. But sometimes it's not really about your efforts or your work ethics or your strategies. Sometimes it's just life, this imperfect life. You would have done exactly the same thing and the result would have been different. So you don't have to stress yourself over that kind of things. So next is grit. Grit is about a person's passion and perseverance towards a long-term goal. It gives him the power to continue pumping efforts and interest towards his achievements. A great example where I like grit is when winter comes and I reduce the number of time I go outside for walks and jogging. The cold and the fact I need to put so many layers before going out are factors that I let affect me. But if I told myself in my inner discourse, I don't care if it's cold, I don't care if I need to put layers. Putting layers is fun, it's nice, I'm happy, I can use my winter suit and such. Just notice how lucky I am to live through these events. Well, I know it would become a lot easier for me. And this is the grit section, is to just have this good inner discourse and empowering discourse everywhere that you go. So to really make your thoughts work for yourself. And this can be found in a million different places. It's not just for winter. For me, at first, with physical activity, it was to put on my shoes and just change clothes to go and work out. I found it quite difficult at first, but now that I did it many times, this is not what's affecting me from doing sports and such. And the same goes with rain. It goes with trying out new physical activities, and I think you get the point. So that's quite nice. I kind of liked to do that kind of live recording. Of course, I stumble a lot in my words, and I think it's quite irritating for me. But at the same time, it's a first. I'm going to be able to improve in the future, and it's not as bad as I thought it would be. So I'm really happy about it. So there was motivation, discipline, and what was the third one? Motivation, discipline. Let me just get that. Oh yeah, the last thing was productivity, which for me rhymes with efficiency. It's used and learned to minimize the time invested in tasks or projects while increasing our work output or effect. It usually happens by making the whole process of work as defined and structured as possible, without leaving any moment or action to chance or uncertainty. I think productivity is a trap early on, and I will explain why shortly. But all in all, motivation is felt, discipline is used, and productivity is improved over time. A perfectly motivated person who's not hindered by hidden fears or distractions will face very few challenges towards taking action and achieving his goals. Someone with strong discipline can power through work because he is able to control his inner discourse by replacing "I don't want to do X" to "I get to do X" and other such sentences. This manipulation of the sentence empowers us to achieve more with the same circumstances as someone who does not have it. Productivity is, for me, the last step towards becoming the powerhouse we all wish to become. A lot of the time, people are trying to optimize their time and efforts exactly for the sake of it. But in putting less time and efforts toward achieving their biggest dreams. I guess you know where I'm going with this. The thing is, there are other vital skills of the mind that need to be mastered, in my opinion, before spending lots of time on productivity and efficiency. In other words, I could spend tens of hundreds of hours on crafting my most productive daily, weekly, and monthly schedules towards achieving important goals for me. But if I'm not able to mobilize myself towards working hard and long hours on the project of my dreams, productivity or not, I will never achieve it. So, my question to you is, do you know your limits? I know my discipline isn't the best right now, or else I would produce about 3 to 6 videos per week every single week. And it would send me way quicker to my objective of becoming a successful YouTuber. But I know I improved it a ton in the past 2 to 3 years. And I'm able to see it in the little things of life, like household tasks, working out, even working at my job and on those projects. Even working at my job and on YouTube projects. While it's far from perfection, I saw quite an improvement, and that keeps me wanting more. After all, my first realization is that nothing is holding me back except myself. So, how long is this recording now? We're at 36 minutes. I guess I can do another one. Let's try to get to an hour. Or maybe I can try to speak about other subjects. I don't know. What else can I talk about? Just a freestyle flow of thought. What would be a great subject? So, yeah, maybe dreams, limits. Okay, yeah. So, dreams. I think everyone has dreams. And at first, when we're really young, I think most of us have very defined dreams, and we're able to dream really big. Like a child can say, "Oh, I want to be an astronaut," and this is quite ambitious because he doesn't really see why it's so ambitious. But if we take the time to appreciate how many adults have the dream to become an astronaut if they have never invested time in it, I think we can see how ambitious or well, I guess fearless or courageous kids can be. But in our modern world, most of the dreams of people is like, oh, I want to get rich. I wanna be fit. This is the kind of dreams that most people have, and I think it's not exactly what I would call good dreams. Of course, being fit is really noble and all, but it's like when you put something in the category of dreams, it seems almost unreachable. It's like something that you will probably never reach. It's in the domain of the impossibles. So becoming an actress for a young girl, or becoming an astronaut for a young boy, these are pretty hard things to do. Even if they put their whole life into it, maybe they will never make it because these are really hard and specific disciplines in which to become good, and there's a lot of competition to become one of them. But I think they are very, very healthy to have. Having that kind of dream is probably one of the healthiest things you can have as an adult, as a kid. Um, so, for example, for small businesses, well, yes, you can just hope to make the same amount next year or make a little bit more, but you could also wish to just explode your business into something that you've never even thought about. You can have a small job in a restaurant, and you can try your luck and get on some kind of TV shows of your dreams or something like that. So again, this word dream. this is exactly the right word for it. It's something that may seem unachievable when you first say it, but it's something we can strive towards and that will always push us towards a better version of ourselves. So I think what would be good for most people in our society is to replace shallow and empty dreams like becoming fit or becoming rich or traveling through the world or all these things that don't truly matter, because most people that want to get fit is just because they're unsatisfied of their physique. If you're doing it for the health part of it, I think of course it's really interesting and it's important, but at the same time it's quite a small dream. And if you put it in the category of dreams instead of goals, well, you're probably never going to achieve it, because dreams are something you go towards, but you don't put your 100% into it. It's like Elon Musk with say going to Mars and sticking the landing. Of course, this is one of his dreams, but there are many goals that you will achieve before that. I don't see if you understand the point I'm trying to make, but yeah, dreams are really, really big, but it's something that you go toward. Goals are just like steps in your life, you know? It's probably something, all goals that you create are probably going to happen for you if you put your mind to it and you're healthy enough. And
Continue cleaning.
so this is about dreams. So this is about dreams. And now, what is the why I wanted to talk about the fact that dreams are almost unachievable is because, well, actually, what makes it quite unachievable for us to do them is actually ourselves. So the next section will talk about limits, and especially limits that we impose ourselves. So, like I said, dreaming of becoming fit is probably an hindrance to your health, because it's a dream for us is almost inachievable. It's so hard. It's so big. It's like a big mountain, you know. So a lot of a lot of our goals, we actually see as dreams, and I think it's quite an error, since it limits us. It limits us from doing them, achieving them. And limits are very hard and they're sneaky. They're just going into your thoughts, and they're quite hard to get rid of. So becoming fit, for example, I don't know. I'm 25 years old and I've never ate well in my life. I've never exercised seriously in any physical activity. What does it mean to get fit? Well, it's a world of uncertainty. It's a world of discovery where you don't know much. You've never explored this domain. And also, it's very uncomfortable because there are a lot of discomfort that you will encounter. So, just laying on a couch, for example, feels kind of good because the material is smooth, it's soft, you're just melting in it. You're so well. They're designed for you to be well sit into them. And it doesn't take a lot of energy for you to lay down in those. But what is the contrary of that? Probably something like physical activity where you experience pain, where you experience discomfort increasing as you do more and more exercise. So I think the difference is quite big. And also the same thing goes with food. You'll see that healthy food or food that's good for you first is restricted. It's not restrictive, but restricted. You have to eat less of a lot of different micronutrients and seafood and calories. For example, there are bad fats and bad sugars. Well, actually, all sugar is bad, I think. I'm not sure, but I think all sugar is pretty bad. But you go from a diet where everything that you eat is also very easy to eat. So you don't have to mushy crunch on your food a lot. You can almost just do 2 3 very small easy crunch on your food and then just swallow it up. So there's chips, there's everything like candy, ice cream, which is very soft, very easy to eat, and everything in between. And again, the contrary is like eating raw celery or eating raw carrots is of course it's healthy, but compared to eating chips, it's a lot less flavorful, it's a lot less satisfying to your brain, gives less dopamine, but it's way better for you. So again, it's a lot of differences that makes it quite hard, but when you understand all those kinds of things and that your body is able to do it, it's just your mind that hasn't attended the meeting. Your mind shifts and you're just able to go through life, and pretty much everyone knows that some food is good, some food is bad, that not moving at all is pretty bad, and moving a little is better, and moving a lot is good. So it's quite hard for me to categorize this as a dream, since I think it's more maybe a big goal for someone who's really unfit and has never been fit. I think it's like a big goal, but I wouldn't categorize it in a dream because it's really achievable. A dream would be to be that to be that unhealthy and try to become an Olympic champion. So that's a dream. Here's a dream for you. And this dream can also push you towards achieving the goal that you want to become fit, and that's quite good. So again, the next principle I want to talk about is the principle that talks about success and failures, and this is one where I had a lot of experience with. So in the early stages of my life, before really becoming an adult, I think I was going through it. I was going through it without really trying to achieve anything, without trying to be successful in any way. So what that made happen is so what that meant so what it made is I never really encountered failure, and so I never encountered failure, but I never encountered success too, because true success comes from accepting our failures and trying to do better. So of course I failed a lot. It's not because I did not fail. It's just that I didn't see it. It wasn't right there in my face. It was more like I go on a math test at school, and so I fail. I failed the math test, and then I go back to school. I talk to my professor, and he says, "Oh, I'll give you another chance." So I just go home, I study a little bit more than I did, and then I pass. I simply pass. So this is what kind of success that I was striving for in the past. It was to do the minimum amount of effort for the maximum amount of reward. So for me, it was not about getting 80% or challenging myself to get even more. It was just to pass. I wanted to pass. This was my goal. And when I reflect about it, I think it's not so bad, but there should at least have been a domain or a field where I wanted to win, to truly win. Because not trying to win in anything, I think is quite sad. It's quite unfulfilling, don't you think? I think that it's in our identity. If you win in something, it empowers you to think of yourself a little bit more than if you lose everything in your life, or if you come second or third. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's better to accept loss every single time and don't strive for improvement. But if so, I'm not at this stage yet. I'm still trying to win. But now I'm just lying to myself where I don't want to. I'm never living through failure. Of course, I produced a lot of videos in 2023 and 2024, and pretty much every one of them were failures. And that I lied to myself. I think it's quite real. There's a lot of people that are competing to get the spotlight and to keep audience attention. And right now, I'm not able to do it. I'm not able to do it as well as they are. And that's perfectly okay. I don't want it to be ended to me on a silver platter without any efforts. I prefer doing the efforts and learning learning along the way. So so this is pretty much what I wanted to say about success and failure. So failure is like it's like the alert that something went wrong and that you can improve. So after a failure, what's pretty hard too is to pinpoint where you could have done better. I think yeah, this is one of the harder parts of living through failure because a lot of the time we're pretty clueless. We don't really know what else we could have done, and that takes a lot of mental strength to just go in and continue doing it, even though you know there's something that you have not understood yet. But if you let that stop you, you'll never really improve. And if you stop doing the action, well, your insecurity will pop in. And when insecurity is there, I think it's the most harmful because it just paralyzes you from taking action. And this is really it's really the worst part about failure is when it when it when you let it control you for not achieving anything anymore. But outside of that, failure is quite good. So this is the thing that I said to my wife that really inspires her. You don't fail, you only win or learn. So this is, but if you forget to learn, well, you just fail. If you forget to learn, you fail because you're just gonna do the same thing over and over. So that's it for today. I know this is the first podcast. It's probably not gonna be very good, but that's where I'm at the moment. So if you're still listening to this, well, thank you very much. But and I wish you a very good day. I'm going to be doing a lot more in the future. It will get better and better as time goes on. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.